I just wanted to do this just because I'm going to start basically getting into this a bit more, and I know it looks a mess. Okay, don't judge. But essentially, what I've got is on the roof of this workshop, which you can't see, of course. There's I think 4 solar panels. They're not very high powered. 2 are relatively low voltage, around about the 20 volts mark, and then the other 2 are 40-ish volts marks. And so what I've done is I've made this. Now, this is crap, right? But it actually does do what I want it to do. Inside, basically, it's got a... And you can't see it, can you? But inside this rather poorly 3D printed case is it's a buck converter inside. And I've got these working also in Sierra Leone. There's an array of them on panels. It's changing, that's interesting. So we've got the output here, and I've got 2 sets of wires just because the one set won't carry the current that I actually want. And they kind of go, you can see how it's, and there's this mess here, which is almost touching actually. But we have, these are the similar buck converter circuits but specifically PD chargers, high-speed chargers. Okay, which I got, and that one's obviously out of the case. And I've got some wires here, which are... I'm going to end up contacting something there, aren't I? I know I'm going to blow something up. They're not expensive, obviously. And here this is my shaver, and I've obviously charged that through this, which is... Right, so I've got the storage. Obviously, these are 4 lead-acid batteries, which are connected in parallel. I really need to do the connections, but I'm not going to do it right now for this video. And so you can see, this is the solar panel voltage, which currently is obviously 43 volts. This is the output voltage, right, which is 14 volts. In other words, I'm setting the voltage of the batteries to 14 volts, the charge voltage. And then this is the current that's being transferred. So I can obviously disconnect that now. Yeah, you're not seeing any change. And also, this isn't very accurate. But what it does do is it gives me an indication of what's going on. Because if the solar panel voltage comes down, which is what happens when it tries to pull current from it, I can then see, and I can also see, like, this is the output voltage, and I can see that voltage difference there gives me an idea of how much the load is working. So if that dropped, say, for instance, down to 12 volts, and this one's on like 12.2, right, then I know that it's pulling power from the solar panels quite well, and then this will show the kind of current, but we've obviously got a bit of a difference there. Now what I've done is, these are the connections to the solar panels itself. That connection there is because 2 are in series in order to bring the voltage up, so they're all similar. They don't have to be exactly the same, because obviously it depends on the amount of current drawn. So if you've got one that's slightly higher voltage, then it'll draw the current from that and pull its voltage down. So, and then it equals them. And then this is the output. And what I've done basically is I've actually taken out the connection. You might be able to see inside, I don't know. I've taken off the connection so that one side is actually linked, because it needs to measure the current, the output current. And so one of the outputs from the buck converter goes into the current measure, and then it comes out here. I think it's on the negative. You can see it because it's not on the circuit board because it moves, look. And the other one is connected. And so that's what's going on. Now, this is just a buck converter with a couple of meters stuck, and this is literally all that's inside that box. There's nothing fancy. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this, but instead of using a buck converter, I'm actually going to use an Arduino, which has an external circuit which it controls and runs as a buck converter, but also possibly something on the input side as well. But I'm still not sure I'm going to do that. And you can see I've been buying stuff. This is an experiment that I'm doing right now, where it's got, this is another buck converter, and then I've got stuff on here which is experimenting. This is a current measure, which I'm doing through, there's a chip somewhere. Yeah, I think that chip is a chip that actually you put in line with your current sensor, and it's specific. It's an op amp basically, but it's designed specifically to measure current through a shunt. And then you've got your that's the Atmega chip, which is part of an Arduino, and the Arduino circuit here, and this is the the serial input essentially, you know, for talking to a machine. But what's not on here is a display. I've got this is a one of these digital controls that you use. Normally find them on 3D printers that control the thing, the output. This one's an analog one, which has an off. So essentially this is coming in from, that's supposed to be like a solar panel input, and then we got a buck converter there, and then I've got an experimental buck converter there which is controlled from the Arduino, but there's an awful lot on this board which I need to start again with. Yeah, and you notice I bought 2 power supplies because I really need to control what I'm doing, because otherwise I just blow stuff up. So I've got 2. This one's a 60 volt one, and that one's a 120 volt max. And as you can see, one set up to 48 and the other set up to 12, so I can run this. And they weren't expensive, £50, and this one was 65. Yeah, and so I'm going to pursue experiments with this, because what I want to do is try and make something which is basically an Arduino based thing with a display. And I've got a kind of mock-up of what I'm going to do in here. Yeah, that's got the buck converter circuit in it, and these are experiments which have essentially been on the shelf for a long time, simply because I've been trying to do other things, earn some money for a start. So I mean, it'd be great if people sponsored my experiments, but you know, I'm realistic about it. So you can see inside there is a circuit which I've created, and it's actually a PCB. And then we've got a current sensor here, and there's previous videos which I guess I can link to about how I constructed that. That's the control, which is basically just an ADC which I can program, and then obviously my serial input here, and I just made this box just so that I can put it in my bag and it doesn't destroy it basically. Yeah, so I'm going to be pursuing those, and it's like a bit of a journey on how to create a really cheap but very good solar charger. But the key to it on this one, this is the key I want, and this is the reason why I'm using a buck converter here, is because this doesn't need a battery. It actually outputs from the solar system to the battery. I can disconnect the battery and it'll still work. I'm not going to do it because I'm holding my phone. But this does not need a battery, you see, and that's the thing, that certainly in like the African countries like Sierra Leone, batteries are very expensive and they're rubbish, because the people who sell them, they just leave them sitting on a shelf. They don't understand that it actually discharges and degrades like food essentially. And I'm trying to explain to them it's like food, but they're looking at me like, what the hell are you talking about, you know? Because they don't understand, because they've not been exposed to how this technology works. So these are permanently on charge, so these are going to be in good condition. But you go and buy one in a shop, it's been sat on a shelf 3 years, the voltage is pretty much nothing, and they just say, well, that's the way it is, and you buy it like that, and then you use it, and about 3 months later it's completely useless again. So I'm trying to cut the battery out of the equation so that the solar will work directly from the panel and charge phones and do other things. And then you can attach a power bank if you want to, and you can get power banks there, and they're lithium batteries, so they'll last a long time. So that's the idea. How far I get with that, I don't know, but that's what I'm going to be trying to do. And I'll be doing a series of videos on my experiments with this as well. Yeah, basically I'm creating this, aren't I? Yeah, this is a cheap one that I bought. It cost me a tenner, I think. But that requires a battery. You can't use it without it. So I'm basically going to make same as that, but doesn't need a battery. You know what I mean? It just works directly from the solar panel, and you can charge phones and stuff with it from the solar panel itself, which is obviously perfectly possible. It's just that the cheap ones don't do it. So there we go.